Welcome to Hub City Presents. I'm your host, Kris Leonhardt from Hub City Times, and today we're going to provide an update on the Marshfield Area Community Foundation. And today we have with us past Executive Director Amber Kiggins-Leifheit and the new director, Stacy Schultz. Thanks for coming, ladies.
Thanks for having us. For inviting us.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what community foundations are. I read, I think, on your website about there's like 30 in the state, just 30 in the state. What do the foundations do?
We're an umbrella organization for other nonprofits and a way for communities to come together to provide scholarships, maybe community projects, a way to improve their community. We're a nonprofit ourselves, so any gift given to us is completely tax deductible. So if donors are motivated by trying to get more deductions for their taxes, that's an added plus. But what we usually see is people have very generous big hearts and have things in the community that they just love and want to see improved, and that's what we're here for. We also are community activists as well. We're at the table for community discussions, trying to look at different problems we have in our community. We collaborate with United Way to produce vital signs, the socioeconomic indicators of what's going on right here in Marshfield, looking at why are there 93 kids homeless, or why are there almost 30% of kids that don't have enough food to eat at home, those kinds of things, and trying to bring the community leaders together to address those problems.
Now, from the report, what were the biggest surprises coming out of this year's report?
Probably the biggest surprises out of this year's report was our income. We haven't kept pace with Wood County, the state, or the nation. We keep falling behind. One new statistic we looked at was age in Marshfield. And we had always thought, well, looking around town, it does look like we're an aging community, and the numbers showed that. The other thing that was good, our property values are now back to where they were in 2008. But when you think about that, that's 11 years to recover from the big crash in 2008. That was a long time. So those were the main things, the homelessness among students being so high. And when you look at the youth survey risk behaviors, we also see alarming numbers with mental health. Almost 30% of students reported that they felt sad or depressed within the last 30 days. I think it was 13% had thought about suicide, and 6% have tried. And when you think those are 8th, 10th, and 12th graders at Marshfield High School in Columbus, 6% of, say, 4,000 kids at the public school system, but only 1,200 in the high school, and Columbus much smaller. That's a lot of kids, 6%. So we really need to address problems here in our community. There's a lot of good things, but there are issues as well.
So when you produce the report, what are you hoping it generates?
Discussion and action. One of our earliest reports, I think this is the 7th year we've done it, showed the number of kids that don't have enough food on weekends to eat, approaching 30%. Free and reduced lunches at Lincoln and Madison School, almost 50% of the students there. And when we take it to community leaders and show them the data, most people said, no, not here in Marshfield. But yeah, here in Marshfield, we have 30% of kids without food on weekends. So what sprung out of that was the Nutrition on Weekends program that United Way provides. We help provide a significant amount of funding for that as well. We ask our donors, would you consider giving to this? And it's been a wonderful thing for students. Once again, students have to agree to participate. Some are too proud, but the numbers there have skyrocketed as well.
So if somebody wanted to take a look at the report, can they access that online?
It's on our website, and it's also on the United Way website.
Okay, so thank you.
Sure.
Can we talk a little bit about the history of the foundation?
Oh, sure. Kind of a fun history. 25 years ago, May of 1993, Ann and Betty Adler came to Marilyn Hardiker here in town. She was mayor at that time, and said they wanted to start a community foundation here. They had $25,000 and they wanted to get it going. Well, Marilyn tried recruiting people for our board and, started the nonprofit process, but as you can imagine, it takes some time. And Ann was one of the first women stockbrokers in the state, and she lived in Milwaukee and had worked with the Milwaukee Community Foundation, and she came back to Marilyn and said, "You get this started or I'm putting my money in Milwaukee." And Marilyn being Marilyn got it started. And so that's how the Community Foundation was born. So kind of a fun story. And from that humble beginning of $25,000, we now have over $14 million in assets.
Wow. How have you seen that grown?
When I started in 2008, just as the market was going down, before the market tanked, we were at $2.8 million in assets and 70 funds. Today we have 225 funds, each with its own unique identity and purpose, and $14 million right now. It was at Christmas time as high as $16 million, but as you know, we hold a fund for the athletic facilities, so we have started paying their bills, and so our assets have decreased a bit.
So what type of funds do you handle?
There are a variety of funds. People can come in and whatever their passion is, pretty much if they're supporting a nonprofit, set up a fund so they could support that forever with us. A designated fund, let's say you want to make sure your church is taken care of forever. If you have at least $10,000 to open a fund, you can name your church, and every year they'll get a percentage from that fund, so it is here forever. We have donor advised funds, so if you want to do your charitable giving through the community foundations, that's another strategy to help reduce your taxes. You can open a donor advised fund. Fidelity and the big investment companies open them, but why not support your community? We have scholarship funds, over 70 different scholarship funds, $120,000 given out last year to about 120 students. We also have these project accounts in the community. They can range from small things like community gardens we're now supporting to the big projects. Pretty much all the wonderful things when you see around Marshfield, people don't even realize they were supported through us. Wildwood Pavilion, the bathrooms down there, the Bear exhibit, Weber Park, Miller Park, Heckman Field. Going north, we have Hummus Park, Brame Park, Bozen Tennis, the new athletic facilities, Tiny Tiger, the Outdoor Learning Sanctuary, the ACE Academy. The list goes on and on, Greasy Park. I'm sure I'm forgetting a few. But right now, actively recruiting donors to be generous once again for the new pool. We also still are accepting donations for the Cougar exhibit, or pretty much anything we support. Along with our own community grants, we have a grant program within the Community Foundation to respond to emerging needs in the community. And that might be small grants to the Alliance for a Greener Marshfield asked for, it was $400 so they could do shopping bags to try to get people moving away from plastic bags to use reusable bags. To bigger requests, the athletic facilities asked us to sponsor the scoreboard at the new stadium, and so that will say the J.P. Adler fund through the Marshfield Area Community Foundation on the bottom, and it's supposed to be the biggest scoreboard in the state, so it'll be fun to see that there, right in Little Marshfield.
Well, I noticed it's up.
Oh, I'll have to go out and take a look.
It is pretty big. Now, you mentioned two public-private projects that are going on right now, the Cougar exhibit and the pool. So now if somebody wants to donate, if they're watching and they want to donate, how do they go about that?
You can go online and use your credit card and donate anytime, or you can send a check in the mail to P.O. Box 456 and just write in the memo line that you want this for the Cougar Cage or Chestnut Center for the Arts for their new elevator, or the athletic facilities, the pool, whatever really pulls at your heartstrings. There's so many good projects that sometimes it's hard to decide what's the best one.
So the organization is called the Marshfield Area Community Foundation, but do you serve a larger area than just Marshfield?
We do a service area about 30 miles around Marshfield, and the way that originated, it's what Habitat for Humanity picked as their service area. So we thought we'd be consistent with that. So it's Abbotsford, Arpin, down to Pittsville. Wisconsin Rapids Community Foundation also services Pittsville, so we kind of share that into Clark County. Clark County, since that time, has established their own community foundation, but right now they don't have a lot of funding. So, and it's a very needy community in Clark County. It's the poorest county in the state, so we do get a lot of applications from there. And coming around then, Loyal, Neelsville, Colby, Abbotsford, all the way up to Medford, and then Spencer, Stratford, and back to here. Our scholarships reach out to those communities. In the past, we haven't had a big presence with a small staff in those communities, trying to actively help them fundraise. Recently, we gave a larger gift to Stratford. The Bev Aschenbrenner Memorial Pavilion just went up, and we gave them a large chunk of money to help with that. And so we are trying to get out in the area, because we are the area's community foundation.
So if Colby wants to put a pool in, they can come to you and say, hey,
yeah, can you help
us?
Sure.
Okay. Now, you are leaving the
Yes.
organization, and Stacy is coming in. Can you tell us a little bit about, how long you've been there, the biggest changes you've seen other than the growth, what you've seen change over the years, and why you're leaving?
Sure. I started in June of 2008, and seriously, after my first day with 70 funds and seeing how much money I had to manage, I had worked in nonprofit jobs or substitute teaching. I managed a lab in Chicago, but I had never been in a position like this before. And I went home that night and cried. I'm like, this is so public, I can't quit. I don't have the right skills. So I grew into the job. And I think it has succeeded due to good boards and a good community. We have 16 people on our board that are actively participating and helping. I've always kind of described it as two factions. We're usually represented by the UW, Mid-State, the Chamber of Commerce, financial institutions, the city, and then at-large people from the community that care about the community. But I broke it down into those with heart and those that could do the finances. And we need both of those people to help us make the decision. And I think that's why it grew so much, because of I thought it was very important to be out and about in the community and very visible. And you always helped me out whenever I had an article, if I wanted to talk about Speak Your Piece for 13 weeks in a row. You said, sure, we can do that. And I'm sure on the other end of the email you were going, oh boy, 13 weeks. But I thought it was important for the community to talk about how we can better communicate when we are so divided as a community, a city, a nation. And we offer trainings. If I know local churches have jumped in and some businesses to be trained in Speak Your Piece. So it's been a great experience and a wild ride, and I'm really proud of the accomplishments that happened all over town and that I could be a part of it. The library, for example, one of the biggest public-private partnerships was $6 million. And at the time, I always try to help advise the groups. I said, yeah, I'll help you, but that's a lot of money. Maybe we need a feasibility study and see if this will work. It worked. Our community is so generous. And then again, with the athletic facilities, I knew the need was there. I was on the school board, and I was always very vocal that we're not going to put money into repairing that track. It needs just to be replaced. Let's put our money into things that directly affect kids. Yes, sports affect kids, and the community can't use the track, but resources are limited. And so it took some convincing when they said, we're going to build this new athletic facility, and we're going to do a public-private partnership, and Amber, will you help? And I was like, I've been the one that's been kind of vocal against this. But I took a tour of the facilities, we did a feasibility study, and I publicly changed my stance. I said, if we can make this work, now is the time. And it did. They've raised over $10.8 million to date. So that is just amazing. And the school district will match every dollar raised by 50 cents, so like half of that to complete the project. And the best part, that track at the middle school is going to be rebuilt, and it'll be for community use. And John Harrington was a local figure that loved to run and walk and worked at the UW as a Phi Ed teacher. He set up a fund for community projects. That's going to be used to sponsor that track. So really good things coming out of this all around.
So now where are you off to?
We've had a second home in, you won't believe the name of the city, but Partyville. It's outside of
Sounds
Portage.
fun.
Yeah, that's what my kids as teenagers like, Partyville, we're going to Partyville. It's outside of Portage where I grew up, a house on a lake, and we had ripped down the cottage there and built a home for retirement someday. Only I don't want to retire, so I'm looking for some kind of job where I could use my background in philanthropy and education and the things I really care about to go forward. So I want to make sure the Community Foundation is set and ready to transition to the next phase, and I'll be moving on then.
Okay, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we'll speak with Stacy Schultz, the new executive director. And we're back speaking with Stacy Schultz from the Marshfield Area Community Foundation, new executive director.
Yep, brand
Stacy.
new, June 17th.
And it's been fun, right?
It has been great, great so far.
So where were you before coming to the foundation?
Well, my background actually is in therapeutic recreation, and so for my whole career, 25 plus years, I was a recreational therapist, and I came from ODC, where I was the director of community and day services.
Okay, and how did you get to Marshfield?
Getting to Marshfield is an interesting story. So I was graduating from high school and I was all set to go to Winona State. And my dad was opening up the old festival, which used to be Rainbow Foods. He was opening that grocery store and he said, Stace, there's this great little 2-year college. Would you like to come here? And so I came and did a tour, and I fell in love with Marshfield and that small town feel. I was coming from Woodbury, Minnesota, which is a suburb of St. Paul. And so I did my first 2 years here, met my husband, and then I went on to La Crosse. And then we were one of those couples that left, and we left for 10 years. And then when it was time to raise a family, we moved back to Marshfield and have been very happy. We've been back since 2001.
And your husband, he also works in
Yep, my
the city?
husband works at the public library, which has been very nice because I work for the foundation, which is in the community center, which is attached.
Very close.
Yeah, very
You
nice.
ride together?
We bike.
Oh,
So
nice.
he starts a little bit earlier and ends a little bit later, which he says is not fair. But we do bike home once in a while together and get lunch once in a while too.
Okay, so how has the transition gone? Now you started in June.
I did. I started on my 50th birthday. And unlike Amber's story, I did not go home and cry my first day because it has been really wonderful to have Amber help me with the transition process. And there have because it's a lot of new information and it's a whole different language when you're talking about a foundation when I came from a world of working with people with disabilities. So it's been very helpful. There's so many kind people in our community. Amber's done a great job introducing me to people who have funds with us and getting together with them and just hearing their stories about why they donate. I don't think I'll get used to that. I've also spent a lot of time trying to get to know the board members a little bit better and them as well. You know, they're donating their time and what is their passion about the foundation and why are they volunteering all this time? It's been really nice.
So I can see where the rewards would come in with the position, where you get to see people donating, doing good things, and people receiving the good things. But what are the challenges that you've found so far?
I think that there are a lot of needs in our community. And I think that once you start to dig a little bit deeper, you're like, okay, what about this need? And then what about this need? It's like you can't address everything. But I spoke at Rotary last week and I said, you know, one of the biggest things we can do is have the right people at the table. And so when we're taking on different needs, get the people that are actually going to get something done and move forward. And I think being in a position at the foundation, you know, we have people that have funds that are looking to us to say, what are the emerging needs? Where should my money be invested? And I think that that's certainly going to help that challenge of all the needs that we have.
So I'm going to use the analogy of the pool in Covey. But if there's a project another community wanted to do and they came to you and they said, can you help? What is that process like?
Right. So one of the things we're going to look at is what are the needs of that community. And then we talk as a board, we talk with the board and say, is this something that we want to take on? Because when we take on a big project, like our newest one is taking on the new outdoor aquatic center, it's pretty time intensive. So, it's taking in the money, it's helping distribute where that different money needs to go. It's a lot of mailings. If people have pledges where we need to send out reminders once a month or once a quarter, once a year, it's pretty time intensive for our office. So we have to decide if it's something we really want to take on and if it's really going to benefit that community.
What if somebody comes in and they just want to give money and do good?
Okay, this is the part that just shocks me because this happens more often than you'd think. And it's so easy. I can give you an example. So somebody came in yesterday. Now this person already has a fund established, but he came in and said, I'd like to donate $10,000 towards the pool. And what do I need to do? And I said, that's basically it. You just tell me, and then we distribute the fund. But then he said, what if I want to donate to 25 small little things? Is there a minimum amount? And I said, there's really not. I said, if you have a list and there's different places you want to donate, then we can take care of that for you. So now that's somebody that already has a fund established, but it's very easy to do that. But even somebody coming in and wanting to establish a new fund, it's really just having a conversation. They have to have a minimum of $10,000 over the course of 5 years. So by the end of 5 years, they have to have $10,000. And then they can distribute the money out of that. And people can develop a scholarship as well. That's a minimum of $15,000. And then every year they can give a percentage of that money out to grant scholarships every year.
So now that you've been in the role for a couple of months, what do you see for the future of Foundation?
Well, because it's so new to me, I do a lot of research on what other foundations are doing, and we belong to the Council on Foundations, and they have a lot of good information. But one of the things that I do know that I keep seeing over and over is it's about developing relationships. And one of the things I really want to do is get to know who our donors are and why they invested in the foundation. What inspired them to say, it's a lot of money. I'm going to give my money to the foundation, and then I'm going to, figure out where I want it to spend, or I'm going to trust the foundation to give that money out. So I think the more that I can develop those relationships, I think that's just going to foster more giving with people. The same with the scholarships. I want to know who gave those scholarships and why they gave those scholarships, whether it was in memory of somebody or because they really want to see students go into the tech positions. I think that it's good to find out what their passion is. I'm also going to go to the Clark County Fair because I want to get to know people in Clark County a little bit. So I thought I'd pop in and meet the people at the foundation there. And I've got some connections in Owen Withy and in Medford. And I thought I need to get out to those outlying communities as well and get to know people.
Well, while you're there, try the mini donuts.
Okay.
They're very good.
I'm sure I'll try more than the mini donuts.
Yeah. Is there anything that I didn't cover that?
Well, just that you don't have to have a lot of money and open a fund. We have people that donate as little as a couple dollars at Christmas. They put it in an envelope and say, put this where you think it'll do the most good. And really, when everyone pulls their money together that way, we really can make a difference. So you don't have to have huge dollars. And there was one woman that every Christmas sent us $25, and when I called her to see if we could meet, she said, no, I'm kind of old and sick, but thank you. And when she died, she left a lot of money to the public library and established a scholarship fund for non-traditional students with a lot of money in it. So here was this woman who was giving $25, which isn't a lot of money, and never really wanted us to hold her hand and, but she was so generous that in her estate she did good things for other people.
Very nice. Great stories.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for coming. I'm Kris Leonhardt from Hub City Times on behalf of Stacy Schultz and Amber Kagan's Life. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.